Hey, my name is Andrew Clark, and in this video, I want to show you the easiest way to learn the notes on the guitar fretboard. Now, before I get into the lesson, I upload a new guitar video every single week, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell. The first thing we need to talk about is the names of the notes, something called the musical alphabet. The musical alphabet starts at A and ends at G, and when you arrive at G, instead of going to H, you just go back to A. Now, in between these letters, we have something called sharps and flats, which you might be familiar with, and there is a sharp or flat between every single letter except for in two places. To give you an idea of how sharps and flats work, we'll look at a G note. So here's a G note on the low E string. And right above that G note, we would have a G sharp. After that, we would go up to an A, right? Makes sense. We go back around to the beginning. However, if we go from the A and we go down from the A, we go to a G sharp, but we also go to an A flat. So A flat and G sharp are the exact same tone. Now you'll find this with all the other letters as well, except for in the two spots that I mentioned. So between B and C and E and F, there is no sharp or flat. So you go straight from B to C, then to C sharp. There's no C flat, there's no B sharp. And the same thing for E. So there's no E sharp and there's no F flat. You just go E flat, E, F, F sharp. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is talk about the string names on the guitar. Now, the strings on a guitar are tuned in perfect fourths, with the exception of the G and B string. That is a major third. So all of the strings are separated by about 5 semitones, 5 notes, except for the G and B, which are separated by 4 notes. And the reason a guitar is tuned this way is because hundreds of years ago, some really smart people realized that this tuning was the easiest for changing between chords and also being able to reach all the notes in the most common scales. So starting from the lowest string, we have an E, then an A, then a D, then a G, then a B, and then another E. So if you haven't learned this stuff already, this might be a good point for you to take a little bit of a break, focus on memorizing that musical alphabet, the B, C, and E and F rule, also sharps and flats, and the names of the strings on the guitar. Once you're feeling confident with that stuff, we can move on to the next step. So here's the point where a lot of people will just throw all the note names across the entire fretboard at you in one PDF or one graphic and say, memorize this. Now, I don't know about you, but that type of memorization, it just doesn't work for me. So we're gonna do something a little bit different. Instead, we're gonna focus on the fret markers, and we're only gonna learn the names on 2 strings. And now the reason for this is later on in the video, I'm gonna show you something that allows you to just use the note names on 2 strings and some fancy little shapes to be able to find all the notes across the entire fretboard. Okay, so let's start with the low E string. If at any point you feel like you're getting lost, remember you can go down to an E and you can start counting up the musical alphabet with your sharps and flats as you go to find the note. But I like to think of the fret markers as a little bit of a waypoint as I'm moving along so that I can remember, okay, this one right here is this note, okay, this one right here is this note, and then I can count back or count up to the one with no marker. So the first fret marker, which is on the 3rd fret, is a G. The next one on the 5th fret is an A. The next one on the 7th fret is a B. Now next is a little bit of a weird one. This is a C sharp. And then when we get to the double marker here, that means we've completed an octave, which means that we've gone all the way through the alphabet and we've arrived back at the first letter. So this here is an E. Now the rest of the fret markers would continue the same thing. So just like the 3rd down here, this one's 3 up, this would be a G, an A, a B, and a C sharp. Now the reason things get a little bit weird at this point right here is because between a B and a C, there is only 1 semitone. So that means that C is here. Even though maybe you'd think it's up here, it's actually here, right? So G, A, B, C. then you have C sharp, and then you have D. So what I like to do is I like to more think of the 10th fret as my place to get my bearings, because that's a D. That's something that I can remember. So it's a little bit awkward. Do whatever works for you, but I like to remember this one here on the 10th fret rather than the 9th fret. I think it's a little bit easier. Okay, so next we're going to go on to the A string, and the A string is pretty straightforward as well. We have an A when it's open, and then on the 3rd fret we've got a C, 5th D, 7th is an E. Now, just like the B and C rule, we've got the E and F rule. So this up here would be an F sharp. So this here is an F, but I like to think of the 10th fret as my marker, which is a G. So we've got E, G. And then we get all the way up the octave with the double fret marker here, which is an A. And same thing, as you continue up, you would have C, D, E, F sharp. Okay, so that is the only real memorization you need to do for this method of learning the fretboard at this point. So if you need to stop the video, save it for later, or you just need to sit and think for a little bit, that is totally okay. To find the other notes on the E and A strings, you just find your marker and you count up or down. So if I wanted to go, where is an A sharp? I would go, okay, I know A is my 5th fret of my low E string, so then an A sharp would be right here. If I wanted to find a D flat, I would look maybe on the A string for a D. Well, I know D is on the 5th fret here, and I would go to a D flat. Or I could look for a D flat on my low E string. So if I go all the way up, I remember a D is on the 10th fret, D flat. Okay, I move 1 fret down, and there's my D flat. Now, once you're comfortable with this, we can move on to something called octave centers. Octave centers are a simple shape that you can make to find an octave of a note you already know. So if you've ever played a power chord before, it's very similar. It's actually in the power chord if you play the 3-note power chord, but if you've only played the 2-note one, then it's still a very similar shape. All you're doing is you're skipping one string and you're going up 2 frets. So it would look something like this if we go from the G, G, and then our octave center here would go. Those are the exact same note, just separated by an octave. So this is a G, and this is a G. And we can do the same thing with a different note. If we want to go to a B, we can go B, that same shape, up 2 strings, so skip 1 string, and then over 2 frets. That means that right there is a B note. Now we can do the same thing on the A string, finding whatever we want. Let's say we've got an E right here. So E, skip a string, up 2 frets. That right there is an E note. Now, if you needed to find something a little bit more obscure, let's say an F sharp note. Okay, well, where is an F? Okay, E, F, F sharp, right? We know 2nd fret is F sharp because we can count up our musical alphabet. And then we do our octave center. Boom, right there. That's our F sharp note. And we can do the same thing on the A string. So if we need to find an E flat, we can find an E on the A string, which is right there on the 7th fret, and E flat. Go back a semitone, and then do our octave center shape. So now we've got an E flat on our G string. So really that only leaves us with 2 more strings that we need to figure out. And all we need to do is do the exact same thing with the octave centers, but we have to do a little tiny adjustment just because, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the G and B strings are not tuned to a perfect 4th. They're tuned to a major 3rd. So the shape changes a tiny bit, but it's still very easy to play. We have to go from obviously the D string now. So because we don't know the note names on the D string, we have to go, okay, let's go from a G. Okay, there's a G. So all it is instead of skipping a string and going up 2 frets, we skip a string and we go up 3 frets, just to compensate for that funny tuning on those strings. And there you go. Just like that, we found a G on our B string. So obviously this one's gonna require that tiny extra step, but you're still able to find it pretty quickly once you get the hang of the shapes. So if we wanted to find a C sharp on the B string, what we would do is we would find a C sharp, which I know is right here on the 9th fret because this is a C on the 8th fret. I go up to a C sharp right here, right? B, C, C sharp. Then I go up my first octave, and then I go up my next octave. Remember, changing the shape slightly just to compensate for the tuning. And now I know C sharp is on the B string at the 14th fret. So then that just leaves us with the high E string, which is super simple because E is the same as E. Even though it's a higher string, the note names are the exact same. So a G here is a G here. Same thing, a B up here is right here. And just like that, you can now find every single note all the way up to the 12th fret. And then the 12th fret is literally the exact same thing repeated again. So you can use the same shapes and the fret markers mean the exact same thing. Now, eventually you're probably gonna wanna memorize every single note in every single position across the entire fretboard. But in the meantime, this is a relatively quick and easy way to find those notes on your own. So that's all I wanted to cover in this lesson. This is an important concept for a lot of things that I wanna teach you in the coming weeks. When it comes to improvising, songwriting, trying to find the chords of a song by ear, it's incredibly important to know what the note names are. Now, I believe a lot of guitar players can get really overwhelmed by music theory, but there are a few concepts that are important, and this is kind of one of them. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know if it was helpful for you, and if you have any questions, leave those in the comments below. I'm usually pretty quick to answer. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.